Hello, 7th graders, and let's review the ways that we can graph a parabola. So we're going to start with our first function. H of x equals x squared minus 7x plus 6. So this is in standard form. So we have a couple ways we can do this. Way number one that we are going to review is using, what are we going to use? We're going to use negative b over 2a. So we're going to use, I'm just going to call it negative b divided by 2a. There we go. There we go. Perfect. So you can graph this using negative b over 2a. So the first step, as you know, is to use negative b over 2a. X equals, well, negative b, that would be negative 7 divided by 2 multiplied by 1, which would give us an x value of 7 halves. Now, from there, we can make our t-table. So we know 7 halves is 3.5. That's going to be in the center. I'm going to plug in, let's plug in 0 and 1. Now again, you can plug in whatever you want. Why am I plugging in 0 and 1? Because it's easiest. And if I do the symmetric part of that, 1 is 2.5 away from 3.5. So if I go the other way, which is 2.5, that would be 6 and 7. So they should give me the exact same value if you would graph this. So let's plug them all in. If I plug in 0 up here, that would give me 6. If I plug in 1 squared is 1 minus 7, that's negative 6 plus 6, that gives me 0. That means if I plug in 6, that should give me 0. And if I plug in 7, that should give me 6. It's symmetric. And now, 3.5. So I'm going to use my calculator here. So let me pause the video and use my calculator. All right, I'm back, and it looks like it's negative 6 1/4. So now I graph this. And so negative, let's see, let me make my numbers here. So we know my axis of symmetry is x equals 3.5. We know my domain, x is all real numbers, and my range is h of x in this case. H of x is, looks like my lowest value is negative 6, so it's greater than or equal to negative 6 1/4. So let's graph this. 3.5, negative 6 1/4. 1, 0. That's not 1, 0. Let me redo that. 1, 0. 6, 0. 7, 6. And 0, 6. Now if I graph this, and that's a bad graph, but you get the idea. There's your graph. Now the next thing we can do is intercept form. Intercept form is putting it in the form of intercept. That's factoring it. So we're going to use the exact same problem as we just did. So h of x equals x squared minus 7x plus 6. Same problem we just did, but in intercept form. We want to find the x-intercepts. What do we do to find x-intercepts? We plug in 0 for y. Is it in descending order? Yes. Is there a GCF? No. Can I factor into binomials? Yes. So it would be x minus 6 and x minus 1. My intercepts would be 6 and 1, so my intercepts would be 6, 0 and 1, 0. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's our intercepts. So we now need to find the vertex. So to find the vertex, it's the halfway point. So if you remember, you find the halfway point. So the halfway point is adding your intercepts together. 1 plus 6 is 7. divided by 2. That gives me an x value of 7/2, which is what we just learned, 3.5. So my vertex, which is my minimum, is going to be 3.5. And we know by last problem it's going to be negative 6.25. So negative 6.25 is right here. And you would draw better than me than on a stylus. But there's another way you can get your problem. So you can use negative b over 2a. You can use factor it. If you can factor it and use intercepts. And just a refresher, you should know that intercept form is a multiplied by x minus p times x minus q. Vertex form. Now, vertex form, as you should remember, is the following. It is, let's do f of x equals a multiplied by x minus h squared plus k. So what does vertex form tell you? It tells you the vertex. So for example, if we had this, f of x equals negative 3 multiplied by x plus 2 squared minus 4, that's vertex form. It tells you the vertex. So right off the bat, we can find our vertex, which you should know in this problem, since it opens downward, it's going to be a maximum. So your vertex is negative 2, negative 4. Oops. So if I graph this, and we're just going through the motions here. Sorry, it's hard to draw with the stylus. Okay, so negative 2, negative 4 is going to give us that point. And that's a maximum. So now we need to figure out other values. So let's plug in 0. If I plug in 0 here, let's see, 0, so negative 2, negative 4 is my vertex. Okay, so 0 is going to be 0 plus 2. That's 2 squared. That gives me 4. 4 times negative 3 is negative 12. Negative 12 minus 4 is negative 16. So if I plug in, that's 0, negative 1. If I plug in negative 2, 3, 4, negative 4, it should give me the same thing. And we can plug it in. Negative 4 plus 2 is negative 2 squared is 4 times negative 3 is negative 12 minus 4, same value. And you're like, well, I didn't graph all the way to negative 16. So I'm just going to plug in negative 1, and on the other side is negative 3. Sorry, that's a bad looking 3. So if I plug in negative 1, let's see, negative 1 plus 2 is 1. 1 squared is 1 times negative 3 is negative 3. Minus 4 is negative 7. So we know these are both going to give us negative 7 since it's symmetrical. So negative 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Obviously, your graph will be way more accurate than mine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And it's going to look like that. So there's our three ways. Vertex form, intercept form, and graphing using negative b over 2a when it's in standard form.